And so now that we have a little bit of context on what's the current situation, what's driving and really leading to our current cybersecurity landscape, the next question is, well, where does this pragmatic approach come in? And so we can start by talking about what even is a pragmatic approach? What does the word pragmatic mean? And so the dictionary definition is dealing with things sensibly and realistically in a way that is based on practical rather than theoretical consideration. Um, and so in general, we can think, well, we always want to be sensible, we always want to be realistic. So what does that really mean from a cybersecurity context? And I think what's interesting is if we look at the definition of pragmatics as far as a field of study, this is more about linguistics and language study. But what's really interesting is it looks at how context contributes to the meaning. And I wanted to include this as well because this context or understanding, let's say, what a cybersecurity vulnerability means, depending on what device it's impacted, depending on what the risk could ultimately be, that context really is everything for industrial control system cybersecurity. And we'll see how the potential impacts it could have is really what's going to have to drive us to make sensible choices and be realistic about what actions we can take and in what time frame. And so if we look at why a pragmatic approach is needed, there's kind of a couple of just core facts that lead into building this view of the industrial control system space. So the first is industrial companies are facing an increasing number of credible cybersecurity threats. So with more remote access, with more ransomware and other types of malware really being prepackaged for industrial control systems, with more companies experiencing more threats from more bad actors, we can see a lot of different reasons why this exposure and the number of threats that companies are facing is growing. So we've got a difficult problem to solve and a complex problem to solve as well. So that's our first tenet. Our next is we don't have an infinite amount of resources to address these threats. Companies still have to make sure that they're able to operate. They have to balance security objectives with operations objectives and have limited financial resources to apply to these. And so we can't just take everything we have and throw it at those threats and expect that to really give us a good result. And so because of that scarcity of resources, we have to be realistic. We have to understand what our current risk is. We have to really know that and then take sensible steps to reduce that risk. We've got to understand we're not going to get there overnight. We have to understand that it may take time. It may take a series of steps and programs to really build in and ramp us up from where a lot of organizations in the industry currently are to where they need to be to have a defensible position. But we've got to understand that journey and take it one step at a time. And so that's where, when we look at the exida approach, this is something that even from our first book on industrial cybersecurity that we published over 5 years ago now, it really comes down to following that pragmatic approach and understanding how we can leverage the standards and leverage all of those industry best practices and guidance and really take it and apply it to a site in a way that's going to be most beneficial for them.